All right, what's going on, y'all? So today we're going to talk about how you can use carb cycling to lose fat and get leaner a lot easier, and how you can actually use carb cycling to stay leaner while you're just trying to maintain your physique year round, or even if you're bulking. You can actually stay leaner as you're bulking up if you use carb cycling in the correct way, which I'm going to show you how to do today. I've used carb cycling literally over the last 6 to 8 years now. I used it through my entire time of competitive bodybuilding as a pro bodybuilder, and I stayed leaner. When I was bulking up, I was able to bulk up to pretty high weights while still keeping some semblance of abs. I was able to stay leaner with carb cycling. I was able to get shredded quite a bit easier using carb cycling. And then even now, since I've been retired, I still use carb cycling to this day to easily maintain a relatively lean physique. And I do that pairing that with intermittent fasting, which I've talked about in other videos, and I can continue talking about in other videos. But today we're going to talk about how you can correctly use intermittent fasting, how not to do it, and then I'm even going to show you my own food diary towards the end of this video so you can see what I'm eating and how I structure my own carb cycling. So first off, how carb cycling works and why it works. Carb cycling, you're going to have days of higher carbs and then days of lower carbs. And why this works rather than just having the same amount of carbs every day is an analogy I like to use is a cup full of water. So carbs are filling up your muscles full of glycogen, and it's like filling up a cup full of water. If you have too many carbs, the cup will eventually spill over, which could spill over towards fat. So if you're bulking up, you want to be having a full cup, and it's okay, to kind of spill over and have too many carbs when you're bulking up. But if you can limit that spillover, you're going to limit the amount of fat gain. Same thing when you're trying to lose fat. If you go ahead and you utilize more carbs around training, you're going to be able to maintain training performance, and that training performance is going to make sure you hold on to an appropriate amount of muscle tissue without catabolizing it, but you're going to also use it appropriately to where on rest days or days with lower activity, you're not just overshooting carbs. So this is an efficient way to essentially use carbs as needed and not just be throwing, kind of a random amount of carbs out there and all of that. This works because it makes sure that you essentially can stay a little bit more insulin sensitive, whether you're bulking up, whether you're just maintaining, or even if you're in a calorie deficit trying to lose fat, you're going to be able to utilize your insulin sensitivity a little bit more efficiently by having days of alternating high carb to low carb. Essentially, the whole point of carb cycling, guys, is you're just using carbs efficiently for your training, and you're not overeating the amount of carbs you need to. Now, some people, they like to go ahead and on low carb days increase the amount of fats to where they still have close to the same amount of calories. I personally keep it really simple. I keep my protein and my fats relatively the same every single day, and the only thing I tinker with is carbs. And this is the really simple way to do carb cycling. Most people are way overcomplicating carb cycling, and that's how I'm going to show you what people do, the most kind of common method, which is way overcomplicating things in my opinion, and then I'm going to show you how I do it, how I recommend to do it. So how most people do carb cycling is they're going to have multiple days of low carb to then a high day to refill. And it's kind of just arbitrary. They might have 3 low days to 1 high day. You'll see sometimes 5 low days to 1 high day, meaning that for 3 days in a row, you're going to have low carb days. And then all of a sudden you'll have 1 high day to refeed the body, fill up the glycogen stores again full of carbs, and then you go right back into the 3 low. So this could be 3 low, 1 high, 4 low, 1 high. And then another popular method that's even more complicated is literally different carb amounts depending on the day of the week or depending on what's being trained that day. So on chest day, you could have this amount of carbs. On leg day, you could have this amount of carbs. And this is a very complicated way of doing things. Now, yes, this can be beneficial, but we're talking about, this might have a 2 to 3% difference across the board. It's not going to make a massive difference, and it's way overcomplicating things for most people, in my opinion. How I suggest doing it, how I've done carb cycling literally for years, how I have most of my clients do carb cycling if they want to do it, is have training day carbs and then have non-training day or rest day carbs. So essentially training days are going to have a little bit higher carb load, and then rest days are going to have a little bit lower carb load because you're going to have less activity. So on the training days, around training, you'll have a little bit more of carbs. And so this could be on training days, you could have anywhere from 50 to 150 grams of extra carbs on training days than rest days. It's a range, and it depends on the person, how much more carbs they want, how they utilize the carbs. But for most people, the general rule of thumb is on training days, you're gonna have 50 to 150 grams of carbs that day more than on a training or on a non-training day or rest day. And I personally recommend, and I put my carbs around my training session. You're essentially wanting the higher carbs around your training to stimulate more training performance. If you can be under more heavier loads, or you can put out more training intensity. This doesn't matter whether you're lifting, whether you're running, whatever training you're doing. If you can have more training intensity, have better training execution, this is where you're going to get more out of your training session and utilize those carbs. And then on the rest days, the non-training days, this is where you go ahead and you drop the carbs down, 50 to 150 grams. So let's say that on a training day, you're eating 3,000 calories. On a non-training day, you might go ahead and lower it by 100 grams of carbs. So now you're having 2,600 calories. So you could have training day calories, which the only thing changing here is carbs, of 3,000 calories, and then non-training day or rest day calories is 2,600. And the reality is, guys, you're having less activity on those non-training days. You're not utilizing those carbs anyway, so there's kind of no reason to have it. This is how you can get leaner a little bit easier, a little bit more efficiently, sometimes a little bit quicker. But this is how you can also stay leaner just year round quite easily, or even if you are trying to bulk up, you can stay leaner. Now, if you are trying to bulk up, you can't overshoot your carb cycling, because if you are not maxing out, your glycogen stores and really getting the most out of, you're filling up your glycogen and then having that peak training performance, you're going to be leaving some on the table. So that's where, when bulking up, don't overdo the carb cycling to where it's keeping you closer to maintenance or even pushing you into a deficit, because that's going to limit your growth. But this is how you can bulk up even using carb cycling by, having those rest days be days to where your body is able to kind of take a little bit of a break and stay a little bit more insulin sensitive. So now here's how I go about doing it. I'll go ahead and throw my MyFitnessPal. This is my current calories right now. And so this is how I'm eating on training day. So on training day, you can see I have more carbs right around the training session. I have an intra-carb drink to where I'm drinking 25 grams of cholesterol throughout my training session. Then I have more carbs on the meals that would be pre and post workout. And then over here on my non-training day, my rest day, I don't have that intra-carb drink, and I have less carbs in those meals that would be my pre and post workout. And so you can see it's really, really simple here. I'm keeping my fat sources the same. I'm keeping my protein sources the same. The only thing that's changing is the amount of carbs in those pre, intra, and post workout meals. Now you can make this as complicated as you want. Like I said, some people do 3 on, 1 off, 4 on, 1 off. Some people have different amounts of carbs they use on a chest day versus a back day or legs day. Or if you're doing push-pull legs, they'll have push day carbs, pull day carbs, leg day carbs, rest day carbs. In my opinion, that's just way overcomplicating things for 99% of people. And I've tried that in the past, and guys, I'm talking about that might give you a 1% to 2% difference. It's not a massive difference. So I recommend for most people out there to just, if you want to do carb cycling, to just do training day carbs and then non-training day carbs. And that'll keep it really, really, really simple for you. And you don't even have to do this. The reality is you can keep your calories and carbs the same every single day and still have fantastic results. This is a little bit more of a, I don't want to call it advanced, but this is something that, people implement after, they've got a lot, all the basics really, really nailed down. This is not one of the basics, of diet, nutrition, and training and all of that. This is something you do, after you've got the basics really nailed down and you want to kind of take it up another step and make things even more efficient. And this will allow you to stay more insulin sensitive to where you can get more carbs or get more out of your carbs year round. And guys, I'm telling you, pairing carb cycling the way I do it with training day carbs and then non-training day carbs with intermittent fasting, guys, this is the super, super, super easy way to, one, stay lean year round, and then B, maintain really, really high training performance year round. This is one thing I see so many people want to, completely remove carbs or really, really lower carbs. But you're leaving so much training performance on the table. Yes, you can stay lean doing that, but you're leaving so much training performance potential on the table. If you go ahead and you do this, you're going to be able to stay lean. You're going to be able to stay insulin sensitive and be really healthy from a blood sugar and insulin sensitivity standpoint, and not overdoing carbs. But you're also going to be able to keep maintaining and even progressing with training performance. So I hope this helps some of you guys out there. If it did, please go ahead and smash that like button. Let me know if you've got any comments or questions over this. This is a little bit more of a complex topic, and I could definitely talk for hours just on carb cycling alone. There's many different ways and how to kind of skin the cat of this. So I could talk, about this for hours if y'all want more videos on carb cycling. So let me know if you want that down below. All glory to God. God bless y'all and have a great rest of your day.